Okay, we will call the meeting of the Lancaster Criminal Justice Commission to order at 10:03. Commissioner McCracken, would you lead us in the pledge, or excuse me, roll call?
Commissioners Brown, absent. Harris,
Present.
Herr,
Present.
McCracken,
Present.
Harris, absent. Vice Chair Little,
Present.
Chairman Mercy.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner McCracken, would you lead us in the pledge?
If you would please stand. Face the flag and place your hand over your heart and begin.
Okay. First order of business, we have a presentation by Chief of Police Rod Armelin.
All righty. All right, good morning, Commission members. Thank you for having me today. I'm extremely excited to be here and talk to you about our hybrid program that we are going to be bringing to the city. We do have a short slide presentation to help me explain it to you. So, is this my clicker or?
Yes.
Okay, great. And I hope it's one of these arrows. There we go. So basically, understand that the strength of this hybrid program is going to be that we're going to give our city the ability to be directly involved in problem solving, extensive community engagement, and bringing forth proactive strategies that involve our city personnel, the sheriff's department, and any other entity that works to bring forth public safety. Understand that it's going to be a holistic approach. We're looking for answers. Our approach is we want to find out what the root causes of some of the issues in the city are and knock them down. And by the way, we're going to give you a short presentation later on one of these things that we found in the city that we believe is a root cause to some of the calls for service and some of the violence has actually gone on in the city. So here is our org chart. It's pretty extensive. We're bringing a lot of new pieces to the city that's going to get, like I said, give us the ability to work hand in hand with law enforcement, with the sheriff's department, and address issues. So we're going to break that down for you. It'll be a little bit easier as we break it down and show you the different pieces to it. Okay, so first understand at the top, obviously, is myself, the director or future chief. And we're going to have our own public information piece, or we're going to work with our existing city public information. But what's really important is we're going to bring in a body that is extensively dedicated towards doing community engagement. And that's everything you can think of, you know, your block clubs, connecting with the different businesses, the hotels, setting up block watch, and working on ways to engage with the community so that we hear their voices and hear what the problems are, because that's really where the strength is going to lie, that we're getting the information out there on what's troublesome to our community. The administrative support basically is, you know, my support. And then I want you to understand that we're going to have 3 separate divisions. And it's going to be a community policing piece, a services or social services piece, and then our administrative section or division. So first, let's talk about this community policing piece. And I apologize, it might be a little bit difficult to read from where you're at. So understand that what we want to do is we want to bring in a law enforcement mind as working as a second to me. So we're going to look to bring in an experienced law enforcement person and have them oversee the two subdivisions that are going to be underneath the community policing section. And that's going to be a law enforcement branch and what we're calling public services branch. So what we'll have in those divisions are so under the law enforcement branch, we're going to have a traffic and parking enforcement branch section. We're going to have a community preservation section, and then our actual hybrid. So the traffic and parking enforcement we already have. We realize that we have a growing problem in the community, so we'll probably bring in additional people to help us with dealing with parking enforcement. But we're also going to bring in, and you'll hear me talk about them a little bit later in another area, we're going to bring in some law enforcement technicians. So what we're realizing is that the demands on the sheriff's department is great. So our citizens are seeing extended delays in getting some of the reports that they need, one being the traffic reports. And in addition to that, the many demands out there pull some of our traffic enforcement deputies away from being able to do enforcement and address some of the issues with poor driving in the community. So we're going to bring in some pieces that can take some of those reports, free those deputies up to do enforcement, so we can correct some of the driving problems that we're seeing in our community. They'll be trained with the sheriff's department and working with the sheriff's department and take some of those lesser reports like the property damage only traffic collisions. Our community preservation piece, basically, that's our existing code enforcement program. So we're looking to better train those individuals and make them specialists in the areas that are up there, which are basically cannabis, graffiti, property maintenance, illegal dumping, and business licensing and destruction of property. And then the next piece over is our actual hybrid piece, or what this program's kind of been named for. And that's us looking to bring in 6 district peace officers that will work with the sheriff's department and go out in the community and address root causes, go after problems that are long-term and existing, and work with the other entities to knock those down and kind of have a long-term positive effect on some of the crime and quality of life issues that we have in our city. They too will be trained by the sheriff's department and work hand in hand with the sheriff's department. The other part are the law enforcement technicians I mentioned before, realizing that, like I said, the demands on the sheriff's department create extended response times. We're going to bring some pieces in that can actually go and take non-in-progress reports. Those will be some of your lesser reports, or not lesser, but some of your non-violent reports, such as burglaries, property theft. They'll also be able to go to businesses, increase those response times, and when some of our businesses catch shoplifters, those delays will be lessened, and we'll send them there to deal with those issues. The other part of that is that it's going to go hand in hand with our administrative sites, because these individuals will be able to go and issue administrative cites to some of those misdemeanor violations, and in turn, because we're not seeing some of these crimes filed on with the DA's office, we're going to have a process within the city administratively to deal with these problems and bring some repercussions to these criminals. So, and then we'll slide over to our public spaces, and that basically entails we want to do something different with our existing ranger staff. We realize that we have a need for city security officers as well. So we're going to train up individuals as actual security officers. and have them pay attention to certain city properties. This will give us additional people in the field that can also go out and patrol certain areas and act as an additional deterrent to some of the crime and quality of life issues we're seeing. And then our rangers will actually be trained up as being park rangers and go into our parks and get them under control and keep them in place so that the families can come out and visit those parks. Another interesting thing is that we've already started working on some of the issues in our parks, and we're seeing a positive effect. Next, we're talking about our emergency operations department, which basically is what you understand. It's going to be the individuals who oversee our public safety building, as well as bring up our emergency operations center and ensure that the city is prepared for any large-scale events and that we're well-trained and ready to act. Then we move over to our technology section. So the city is really big on bringing technologies to the city and to the sheriff's department as best we can. So as you know, we've got a pretty extensive camera program already going on in the city. So this section is going to oversee the technology areas, one being those cameras, two, because we realize that we're going to have more people out there, and with the many complaints and concerns that come, we're going to body camera everybody we have that's in the field. And this coincides with what the sheriff's department already does. And if we're going to have individuals who are doing more of a law enforcement action, they should have body cameras, but we're also going to give that to our code enforcement, our rangers, our security officers. And those cameras work well on both sides. We're going to also, we have an existing drone program. We're looking to expand that and see other ways that we can use it and bring those technologies up. And then I'm really happy to say, under there you'll see flock cameras. We'll be giving you a presentation on that as well. That's been approved, and these cameras are going to have a wonderful effect on fighting crime that goes out there. Anything that involves a vehicle involved in a crime, these cameras are amazing and are going to help us to not only deter activity, catch people in the act, but the big part too is going to be investigative-wise. They're really going to help the sheriff's department with investigations of crimes involving cars. And then again, under there's the radios. We're obviously going to have to expand our radio capabilities. So all that is going to sit under a technologies branch. And we'll be constantly looking for ways to keep up and improve our technologies for our city. And then over to the far side is the homeless services. And as you know, we have an existing homeless team that goes out and deals with encampment issues. So that will remain the same. Excuse me and bear with me. I got an allergy thing going right now that is something else. So this is really a unique piece to our city. We're looking to bring in our services division. So what we're talking about is giving the city the ability to have city resources dedicated to addressing social service issues. So we want to bring in an educated PhD individual who's going to oversee this and give our city, like I said, the ability to deal with issues regarding homeless outreach, family and child services, education and diversion, youth diversion, mental health, which is a huge problem in every single thing out there today, and then also improve our connection and working with the faith-based organizations. This is going to be a really important piece because they're going to work hand in hand with our public safety or our law enforcement section in dealing with issues and going after root causes. They'll also improve relationships with some of the existing resources that are out there that already deal with some of these issues, some of the county entities, and work towards ensuring that those entities are thinking Lancaster first when we call upon those resources and need them to come help. And then the administrative section or division is basically ensuring that we have compliance. With the growth, well, with our existing resources and with the growth that we're talking about bringing in public safety, there's going to be quite a bit of compliance issues that are going to be out there and come up for us. We need to ensure that we are in compliance with all city, county, state, and federal mandates. And that's not just for our hybrid district policing or peace officers, but for all sections within public safety. We'll also see, they will also oversee the budget, ensure that we're getting good contract compliance with all entities that the city contracts with for public safety needs. We're going to need to have some extensive policy development as well. And then the highly, highly important piece is training, ensuring that all our pieces are well-trained and working well, and like I said before, in compliance. We've already started the training with some of our existing resources. In fact, I'm happy to tell you we recently put on a wonderful de-escalation training for not only our people who are out in the field, but also we included other city departments so that our folks, and specifically had to deal with de-escalation matters when you're dealing with the homeless or individuals who have mental health concerns. So that's kind of the hybrid in its entirety. I'm extremely excited about what we're going to do. I do want to tell everyone that we're going to see some immediate effect with some of the things that we're bringing, like the reduction in response times. We feel like we're going to be able to have an immediate effect on that. And then some of the other things are going to be long-term, because we need to deal with root causes and make problems go away long-term. So that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, I have a question. I was curious to know, how exactly are you guys going to decipher between which calls, in other words, for the public, who do they call? If I come out to my car, it's been damaged, do I call the sheriff's department? Am I going to call the city of Lancaster? How is that separation going to be handled?
It's a great question, Commissioner. So so understand that our district peace officers will not be responding to crime calls. They're going to be working on community engagement and dealing with issues that are out there long-term. Our law enforcement technicians will respond to calls, and they're going to be dispatched through the sheriff's department. They're going to be trained by the sheriff's department, and they'll work closely right outside of their dispatch, right inside their dispatch.
So ultimately speaking, then the sheriff's department will be making the decision on whether to accept the call and dispatch to LA County Sheriff officers or dispatch the call to city personnel.
Yeah, yeah, and understand that's just the law enforcement technicians. That's the folks who are going to take reports. So the captain and I will eventually sit down and say, hey, these are calls that these individuals can go to safely. Another thing that they're going to do is we're going to have them trained up in fingerprinting and some crime scene preservation techniques, so they'll be able to go and help with that. But whatever they're dispatching deputies to that fit in the categories of let's just say lesser crimes, there'll be another resource that can be dispatched, lower response times, and free up deputies to be out in the community addressing issues that are taking place.
So, Rod, with that, when it comes to the homeless population, and it looks to us like it's going to be increasing quite rapidly, how do businesses differentiate with that when they're calling for service and they have homeless populations at their businesses and things like that, and they need a claim? Are they calling the sheriff's department or are they calling the city? Like Howard was saying.
So what you're doing currently is still going to take place. If you have a call for service involving a homeless where there's an issue and you need deputies there, they will be called and respond. Our homeless team is still going to go out and address encampment issues and
They
larger
do a
issues.
great job. Yeah, they do a
And-
great job.
And we're,
Yeah.
but we're bringing, inside of our social services piece, is we're going to bring individuals who can work towards, placement or whatever we can do to lower the number of homeless on our streets.
Well,
So-
I guess where I'm going is that there'll be a time where, like you said, you'll sit down with the captain and come up with those type of calls that would sit there and say, okay, now we've gotten into this program, we've brought it on board, now we'll be able to differentiate how we're going to dispatch it?
So we're going to have the same resources that respond to crimes in progress and dealing with the homeless, if it's a crime issue. But now we're going to have city security officers who can also go to certain calls. And we're going to have that piece of, understanding that social services piece that's going to go and work to get the homeless off the streets. Your calls for service regarding issues in progress will still go to the sheriff's department. But we're also going to have individuals at our public safety building. And so you'll still be able to take currently we will still get, currently we'll get calls regarding non-crime homeless concerns. You'll still have that ability to call directly to public safety, and we can dispatch either homeless services individuals or our security officers or our homeless outreach team, depending on what the need is.
So if a business is broken into and there's, they come in the next morning, and there's windows shattered and breakage and this and that, they would call, and the sheriff's department is busy there, they would dispatch that to the city hybrid, and they would come out and handle taking that report?
So the sheriff's department, basically those extra pieces that we're bringing, that can take the lesser reports or the lesser crimes. The sheriff's department is going to get the call, and then they'll take a look, and they're going to dispatch the most ready available person who can go, whether it's the law enforcement technician or a deputy. The law enforcement technician, they're not going to be restricted as the only individuals or the only individuals that can take those calls. They're still going to look and send whatever resource they have that is immediately available. The law enforcement technicians are going to give them an increased number of people that they can dispatch to those calls.
So what we're looking for is a quicker response time at times, right, Cap? Yeah.
This is, I can kind of add to it a little bit. We've had some lengthy discussions about how to utilize the field resources. We have, in other station areas, we have similar available resources that the cities employ. We have memorandums of understanding in place where we can dispatch them to a call for service that doesn't necessarily require a deputy response, but could be covered by that city employee. In several of our other contracted areas, we have that same setup already. Our dispatchers will be the ones filtering those and saying, hey, is this a crime that's occurring now or just occurred, something that we can take immediate action on? If it's something that's already gone cold and it just needs to be documented and then a detective can follow up on it later, then that's an example of something that one of the field resources would be dispatched to.
I got it, yeah.
So we will still, in order to keep it clean, is probably the easiest way to describe it, and keep the investigations all together, we will still be responsible for sending the resources out, filtering the calls, and then the dispatchers will decide whether it needs to be a deputy or whether it can be one of the city resources. So, if it's a long-term, probably the easiest way to describe it is if it's an acute issue, we're gonna handle it. If it's something that's a long-term issue that's developed and can be handled that is not an emergency, that's something that we're gonna be partnering with, or the city will be handling with their other field units. But the law enforcement technicians, the field units, that's something we would be dispatching.
Got it, yeah, awesome.
That's great. I think anything that's going to help with the response time is just wonderful. So it's nice seeing the progress happening. What kind of data are we looking for or time frame for a full launch?
So last night at the council meeting, we got approved to start our hiring process. I know that we're looking to try and we're looking to hire our law enforcement technicians right away because we understand we have to try and have an immediate effect on response times. It's one of the things that I feel like, in speaking with the captain, we can address right away. Now, please understand we have to go through a hiring process because these are folks that are going to get hired under Sheriff's Department requirements because they're going to have access to Sheriff's Department equipment and information. So, you know, to put a time frame on that's going to be difficult. We'll be meeting and talking about how long that process is going to take. Once we do hire them, we're going to put them through training, obviously. And that's probably going to be about a couple months, I'd say, John, of training with the Sheriff's Department on how to go out and do the report taking.
But does everything when they're hiring those individuals, do they have to go through the Sheriff's Department? Does it go over the hill to the main?
No,
or can we do that all in-house here?
They're going to be city employees. The part that we would look at on that is if we can do a background check on them in order to facilitate their access to the data networks that they'll be on. And then the training portion, the city wants to make sure that they're documenting things the same way we document them, so that there's
Right.
no differentiation there. We could have a seamless flow from whatever they intake and run back to our detective bureau. So we want to have them out in the field. We also want to be able to work, if they get to something and they realize it's over their capacity, that they recognize that immediately and then call us so that we can come in and take over that part of it. So we want to train them and make sure that they have at least a base understanding when we send them out in the field. A lot of the other stuff will develop on the job. As longer they do it, they'll have a better working knowledge of how we do things.
Will they be equipped with weapons?
No. These law enforcement technicians, no.
Yes.
No.
So, related question, and maybe you're not the right person to be asking this, but we have a relatively pro-crime district attorney, and we have a relatively pro-crime legislative majority in Sacramento, and as a result of that, they've created a window of opportunity for shoplifting. And it's, I know that Mr. Sherwood's hands are somewhat tied, maybe the deputy's hands are somewhat tied, but it's created this window of opportunity for shoplifting and maybe even incentivized shoplifting, which over time begins to fray at the fabric of retail availability. Maybe I'm overstating the problem, maybe it's not a problem, and maybe it's just a media problem that I read about and it's not really an issue for retail outlets, but maybe it is, and if it is, what could be done?
So I will tell you, I think I agree with you. It is a problem, and so the beauty of the hybrid program is we're going to have individuals out there, our law enforcement technicians, and even our security officers, once we bring that piece on, who can respond to those crimes, deal with the issue, and through our administrative site process, actually take some action against them. So in the manner of fines, and there's quite a bit to the administrative site process, but we're putting a process in place, or back in place, that can deal with those crimes that the district attorney's office has not been able to address.
With that, Rod, when you say fines, could it be also community service? Or can the
Yes.
city do that?
Well-
or does it have to go through the district attorney or something on the legal process? Or is it strictly just fines?
Within the administrative site process, and we'll probably be bringing a presentation to you guys on that as well, is going to be the ability for some folks to do different forms of community service to include education or training to work towards helping them not be the person that they are being. So, and I'd imagine we'll be doing a presentation on the administrative site process to you folks really soon as well. So you'll get a better understanding of how that's going to work. But that's a really important move for us, because, and especially under current times that you spoke about, Commissioner, we need that process to help us and the Sheriff's Department deal with some of these issues that just aren't really being addressed.
Along those lines with misdemeanor prosecutions or lack thereof, is the city able to pick up any of that through city attorney office, or is that something that's been?
Within the administrative site process, and I apologize, I can't quote it right now, but there's actually a section in there that gives us the ability to deal with misdemeanor crimes. So we're really excited to get that going again.
Great. A couple of things along these lines, just wondering how the process will work, because I know they're ones that don't necessarily involve a physical danger and so have the longer response times, but nuisance and noise complaints, loud parties, that kind of thing, how would those be addressed under the system?
So we'll have to take a look and see if those are calls that we might want to consider sending our security officers to. My first thought is probably not. As far as response to those, it'll still be the deputies responding to those. We definitely would not send our law enforcement technicians, because they're just simply going to take reports. So more than likely, that's still going to be the existing process, because that's a crime in progress, basically, or an issue in progress. And we won't be sending the law enforcement technicians to any in-progress calls.
Okay.
And our peace officers, like I said, are really going to be out there to find root causes and deal with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
In the past, you've talked about on that hiring process of going with possibility of retired officers, police force. Is that still a consideration that you'd be looking at within the community here?
Yes, it absolutely is still a consideration. I think there's real positives to that, because we're going to talk about folks who are going out, engaging, spending time dealing with the community, and trying to work to find out what the problems are, why they keep coming back. You want an experienced, calm, great communicating officer out there doing that. So.
And with those deputies who want to come back and assist you, how are you going to get a hold of them? Do they need to get a hold of the sheriff's station? Is there a different division with the city that, if they're interested in an interview for you?
So when we move towards that, we'll put out a hiring process, and I can tell you, being a past chief of police, when you go to hire any position that works in public safety or with law enforcement, it gets branched out to pretty much every agency out there. And you usually get quite a few folks who are interested and apply, including some of our own retired deputy sheriffs. I'm sure will be very interested in this.
Great, thank you.
You said those officers carrying weapons, and what kind of actions they can take at the crime scene as a self-defense, or protecting the citizens until actually deputy gets there?
So our law enforcement technicians, the 8 that we're going to hire, are going to non-in-progress calls to take reports. They will have less lethal items so they can protect themselves, such as pepper spray. But the only individuals who will be armed would be our district peace officers. They'll be armed and trained and carry guns.
So they can actually physically contact.
So they can defend themselves. That's not where we don't want this team to go out and take direct action.
Of course, we don't want to, you know what I'm talking about,
yeah.
and actually it could happen. And sometimes, just like a deputy, they need to, split-second decision they need to make.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
it
Yes,
could
sir.
happen.
And they will have that ability. Law enforcement technicians, and by the way, this is a piece that the city had some years back, and it was taken away for some reason. They were called community service officers at the time, and they went out and took reports. So those folks, really, this law enforcement technician is bringing that piece back and also giving them the ability to affect traffic. That's going to be one thing that's different.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, thank you so much for the presentation.
Rod, looking forward to working with you
Yeah.
guys. I mean, it's, what a great project to kick off with the city. And
Yeah,
commend the
thank
city
you.
council, commend the city council and city, and Jason and all they're doing. Andrew, I know the work that you guys do out there, it's incredible work, you know, so, but looking forward to whatever we can do as a commission. Looking
We-
forward to working with you.
Thank
Long
you.
time coming.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate that. We appreciate your support and caring about this community. And like you said, our council, 36 years of work in public safety, law enforcement. I've seen nothing like this council that is not afraid to say, we're going to give this city what it needs
Yeah.
to keep it safe. So we're in a good place.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have approval of consent calendar, CC1, approval of minutes. Is there
Make a
any-
motion to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Brown. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Or any opposed? Motion carries. Commission staff presentations, updates, and reports. LA County Sheriff's Department. Deputy Green.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to see everybody here today, and happy holidays. My name is Debbie Lawrence Green. I am your Community Relations Deputy for Lancaster Sheriff Station. I'm here with my partner, Michael Figueroa, and today we'll be presenting a few different things, our comp stats and our city stats for crime. We'll start with the Crime Commission report, which we have up here today. I have full control now, which is awesome. All of our crime prevention techniques are via social media, Facebook Live. We do Zoom meetings and workshops as well as town hall meetings. We actually have an upcoming town hall meeting coming up this month, which will give you a report on our settlement agreement as well. We're going to start with our burglary activities. Our total burglaries for the month of October were 64. They're a little slightly down from September, which was 68. Residentials will be 25. Commercials will be 39. That gives you the total of 68 as far as activities for burglary. Our total robberies are totaling 23, which are down from September, which was 32. Our armed robberies are 12. Our strong armed are 11. For those of you that don't know the difference, hands, feet, and fist would be strong armed. Armed would be some type of a weapon, whether it be a bat, a knife, or a gun. Our community engagement for the month of October consisted of our Teen Summit, which was huge, absolutely huge. All of the participating agencies showed up, along with Lancaster Sheriff Station and Palmdale. We had our Haunt at the Hangar, which was absolutely amazing. I love it. The kids had a good time. It's one of my favorite times of the year. And then congratulations to Sammy's Restaurant that we also attended. Congressman Garcia showed up to that one as well. Awesome turnout. So that was for the month of October. For those of you who are wondering why we do 2 months back, is because we get a more accurate stat report, which is why we do 2 months back, and is why I'm reporting October stats. Do you guys have any questions as far as the reports for burglary and robbery for the city? No? Okay. We will then move on to our comp stats. This gives you a more detailed structure as far as crimes and statistics. It goes into domestic violence, aggravated assaults, things of that nature. So I'll give you a quick breakdown for October 2022. Homicides over a period of a year are slightly down, averaging 2. Your rapes over a period of a year are going to be up in the month of October, averaging 7. Robberies in the month of October, down, averaging 28. Aggravated assaults, holding steady around, averaging 85. Domestic violence-related aggravated assaults over a period of a year in the month of October are holding at 11. Burglaries over a period of a year, averaging 72, slightly down. Larceny and thefts are going to go up in the month of October, and they most likely will continue to go up because of the holidays. So this is going to be up, averaging 112. Grand theft vehicle also up, averaging 92. Arsons averaging 4, holding steady. And this will be your Part 1 crime hotspots in the area. Your 20th Street West and about, looks like Avenue K, I believe. Sorry, I'm a little blind. But around there is your business district as well. That's where your main hotspot is for the month of October. I believe that area is right around, I want to say where Home Depot is, you know, that area, but just south of it. Business districts always are going to be a hot spot for larceny and thefts. We just had that discussion earlier with our public safety director. Obviously, it's going to be handled now. We have some things that we're going to be addressing to deal with the petty theft and the shoplifting and things of that nature. Hopefully these hot spots go away after everything takes effect. So I'm actually looking forward to this whole hybrid policing thing taking effect and seeing it actually work. Do you guys have any questions as far as the comp stats are concerned? Okay, we'll be moving on to the LEAPS report. Just for your guys' information, we did put all of the definitions for each type of crime in case you guys have any questions or anything you want to know as far as how each crime works and how our statistics come together for that crime. LEAPS progress report. For those of you who do not know what LEAPS is, it is a manned airplane that does circle the city. And from our base at our station, we can actually control the camera that is attached to that airplane. The camera actually allows us to zoom in so we can see clothing description. We can see pretty much everything on the suspect as or the activity in the area that's going on for that incident. What I'll be going over today is the contribution of LEAPS and how it relates to Lancaster Sheriff Station and what it's been doing to help us out. We will be looking at the little green squares on the right-hand side. I will not be reading word for word. So in general, if you look on the right-hand side, for the month of October, LEAPS led to 32 arrests, 55 traffic stops, 14 burglary and robberies, fights and assaults, 57 it helped out with, persons with a gun, 18, and other offenses and suspicious circumstances led to, they worked with us on 43 incidences. As we scroll down, if you do it as an overall perspective out of 100%, 45% involve people, 7% involve property, 27% involve vehicles, 14% involved arrests and detentions, and 7% involved observations. So they continue to help us out relentlessly with the whole crime activity and allowing us to actually get an eye in the sky on active investigations. Once again, I cannot thank you enough for allowing us to have this program. It will continue to be effective till this day, and I have no reason to doubt this LEAPS program. I do not have a current update as far as the camera upgrade. I know Bob is here. Do you have any information as far as what they're doing about the camera system on the LEAPS program?
Been working with our new director of public safety, who in turn is active with the captain, and we're ready to move whenever they say that they want to press on based on the intensity of the event that it is, should be a real addition to both the city of Lancaster and the sheriff's department. We only await to press on, and we're working with the Department of Public Safety to press on with that. We're ready to go.
Excellent. Do we have any questions as far as the LEAPS program is concerned? Okay, that will be the end of my presentation for Lancaster Station. Thank you very much.
Thank you. LA County Probation.
Good morning, everyone, and happy holidays. I met yesterday with the bureau chief of our department and in our division extensively with our whole office, virtually, I should say. So a lot of good things are going to be happening. We're expanding our resources. Hopefully, they'll come to the Lancaster area. Currently, we monitor and supervise about 10% of all AB 109 people in the Antelope Valley, including Palmdale and the outlying areas. In Lancaster, it's probably half of that, about 250, 225. Some good things are happening. Our numbers are going down somewhat, a little bit. We're not getting as many releases as we have been in the past. Part of that is because they're being delayed. I think I mentioned last month about the video conferences that we're having. So we're meeting the person that we're going to supervise via Zoom while they're still in custody in a correction facility. So the initiation of meeting your probation officer will start immediately, even while you're still in custody, about 30 days prior. So you can establish some rapport, what to expect, expectations. You can begin the process of analyzing the program, a case plan for them. So these are things that we're trying to do to be a little bit more effective. Last month, we had like 14 people be terminated from probation successfully in our unit and office. We gained 13 new clients, so it's kind of like birth, you know, somebody unfortunately passes away, then you have a baby. So it's kind of the same thing, same concept. But they are successful. We did move our location into West Lancaster over by the empty parking lot between Movies 12 on Valley Center Way and Black Angus. We've made we had a discussion with the security folks that monitor that area. So we moved our mobile reporting unit out there. We went from, at the beginning, about 6 or 7 months ago, I think I introduced it to you, we were getting 3 or 4 people. Now we're getting 24, 25 people to report to this mobile unit, which means that we're seeing them again, and that's the most important thing, that we're seeing them an additional time out in the area, in the field. They're coming. We have our affiliated contractor people with the HR 360, Health Right 360, which they have things for them, they have advice for them, they have even homes for them. Obviously, during this time of year, we're trying to increase as many of our transient/homeless folks out of the area and into housing that we have available to them for obvious reasons, the cold weather. Again, if we see them, if we have interaction with them, we feel that we can support them enough to maybe stay on track and be more successful, or at least increase the opportunity to do so. We did have 4 warrants that went out last month, and this is all for November, excuse me. And all 4 were recalled because they reported. So we'll issue a warrant for arrest. It's usually a no bail. But if they report within a few days or so because of transportation reasons, sometimes the mental health issue kicks in effect where they forget what time, you know, how to get there. So we have to kind of run with those things. But we were able to corral them back in, make contact with them. Many times when they get released, they don't have any phones, they don't have any money. So we have to get a process done with different agencies that help with that. So we're dealing with the homeless and transit pretty much like everybody else that come through our doors. And we're trying to be as proactive as we can. We're still averaging right around 33 cases per probation officer in our office. We're doing pretty well. We're still collecting like clothing and jackets to help them. Some of these guys are sleeping outside. It's freezing, as we all know. And we're trying to be supportive as much as we can, so we're doing that. We're being a little bit more aggressive in our field contacts, which means we're going out more often. We're also having our special enforcement officers come out more often. And we're holding them accountable for things so they don't, the proactiveness is when a situation happened last month where a person was supervised, a gentleman, older, I think mid-50s, kind of stopped at his daughter's house every so often. That was given as his permanent address. They searched it, they found a weapon in the house that belonged to her. She was legally armed as a security guard. She was also a former military person. Yet we still confiscated the weapon because it was secured in a lockbox. We booked it in Palmdale. That was the closest station. And we violated the person for not, for having exposure to it, even though he wasn't in the house. We can't be Mr. Nice Guy and sit there and say, okay, he wasn't home at that time, so he didn't have any chance. We can't take that risk. Not so much for us, but it includes us, the officers going in the house, but for the community. So we want to make sure that we don't leave that alone. And so they're doing a really good job of being very proactive in those type of things. All right, we're increasing our narcotic testing more often. Instead of once a month, we're doing twice a month. Now that we're no longer doing urine samples, we're doing the swabbing due to COVID. The turnaround is just as quickly and it's just as efficient. So we're really on board with that quite a bit more than we were, because we were, I believe, lagging in that area during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic. So we're really being aggressive and just doing the things. And it sounds to me like, it looks to me as a supervisor, we're being more, we're kind of getting back to some normalcy, if you will, prior to the pandemic, which is always good. I was going to meet with the director of public safety yesterday. Unfortunately, our schedules had some tweaks in this, but we will meet because we want to be supportive. We want to bring the mobile unit out to the communities, like something that we had in the city last weekend, the holiday on the boulevard. We want to showcase it so the community knows that we're being proactive. That if we all work together, we can add more layers of efficiency of some type to support the downgrading of crime, and that we have less victims. So it's going to be a team effort. It's a slow process. Yesterday at my bureau meeting, we're still discussing even putting more people out in the areas. And again, we have to kind of fight for the Lancaster, Palmdale area because of, we're a little isolated from Midtown. But we are doing that. So they're thinking about adding even more folks. It's kind of like we're going that direction where we're going to get people out of the office, out into the streets, and they can see them more often with mobile units, things like that. Now, that may be 2 or 3 years down the road, but we're hoping not. So that's kind of the direction that corrections is going, probation is going, and hopefully one day we'll see parole in here so we can also work, because we do work jointly together, but that's based on personal and professional relationships that we established over the years and not by, so I hope to have them come and join us on these meetings. And that's all I have for today. Any questions? Any advice? And opinions are always welcome.
I think mainly the question is, what do you need from us? What can we do for you to help you out?
This is great, to invite us here to share this stuff. The light bulb can pop on and somebody, it doesn't matter what your positions are or they're in the audience. It's always nice to see the community come out, but it's a few at a time. But I do think that it's, there is support, like I said, by inviting us here to share our data, because it also allows us to reflect on what we're doing when we speak about it. Sometimes I want to bring my deputies with me just so you can see them and give them a little exposure, because, I ran into some people at the fair, and we put names and faces together, and then the support continues to grow that way, I think. And so, and most of us live out here, and I think that's one of the beauty of, yesterday when we had a meeting with the bureau chief and our leadership, just a nice positive conversation that we had. Usually when we have these meetings that are, semi-annually or quarterly, and they're not in person anymore, you get a lot of complaining and why are we doing this and we're not doing that. But up here, and I think a big part of it, because most of the people, 90% of the people, if not more, reside in the community that they service. You know, like the sheriff's department, you might have a lot of people that live in Santa Clarita, but they work in Lancaster and vice versa. Here, the majority of the probation officers that are out here live here. Their kids go to the same school, we shop at the same mall, we go to the same fair, you know, we go to the same boulevard things that happen, that they put on, and we run into these people. So it's imperative that we have a relationship with them, that we're not feeling that not only are we not threatened or our families aren't threatened when we're out in public, but they're not threatened. You know, one of the things with the mobile resource was we had to build trust, and that's where we're going, because initially they're like, well, I'm gonna go there and you're gonna arrest me. And that wasn't the case. We're trying to be user-friendly, because the more interaction we have with you, the more we can be a positive influence, hopefully, where you may think like, okay, because we aren't the same department we were 20 years ago, 10 years ago. You know, when I was young in this department, you look at me crazy, I just hook you up. And I think our policing and our probations and our paroles had to take a different approach. I'm not on board with the DA for that matter, but I do think that we're better than we were yesterday. And I'm hoping that we continue to do that. And this is part of it. Being a part of this arena and forum helps quite a bit. We feel like we belong as part of it instead of an outsider, so that's a good thing.
Great. And how often how often is your mobile unit going out? Is that
Right now, we're going out twice a month, one in Little Rock, so we take care of that Lake LA, Little Rock area, Pear Blossom, obviously, and also East Palmdale. But we have to keep in mind that some people work here in Lancaster that live in the outside areas. So they can come on their lunch break. So we try to do it from like 9:30 to about 1:30, 2 o'clock. So we want to catch them. So if we can get them work, or they have work already, and we can encourage them, then they can just run over by their lunch hour and we can have that interaction. But again, once they walk away, they realize that I'm not in trouble. And even if they have an issue, they can talk about it, and so it's that extra layer of interaction that we have. So what we're seeing, they're more comfortable in the area. And the good thing about the gentleman on that story that with the firearm, the gentleman, he bounced right back. You know, he realized his mistake, that he shouldn't have been in the house, and his daughter needed to secure it. She just probably came home from a long day and just dropped her belt and her gun on it and didn't secure it. And now he's working full time and he's supporting himself. And so these are things. So, you know, if we violate him and we ask for 6 months, he may not have the opportunity to wake up and say, I need to get my stuff together. So sometimes we have to weigh those, and that's what the case plan's for. It kind of identifies, like, are you capable, without having to go to jail, to really kind of bounce back? And in this case, he did. So that's, you know, that's a good thing.
And how's your staffing still?
Excuse me?
How's your staffing?
You know, we've lost 8 deputies in our office over the last 2 years. We haven't replaced any because our numbers are still low. But in fact, that's one of the topics we discussed yesterday. If they continue to get a little higher, we're trying to keep it 40 or lower. Because if we have them too high, then we can't service you. It's like having one cop for every, 15,000 people or whatever it is, and you just can't service people as well as you can. So one of the things with AB 19, when the state established this, was we were gonna have small caseloads. So we can maintain the 30, 25, 35 area. It gives us plenty of time to be involved and establish rapport, maintain that rapport, and do those type of things. So even on paper, not everybody agrees with it, and I was probably one of them when it first came out about, early release programs and stuff. We are making a difference, in my opinion. I see it firsthand. I see the stats, and I know stats could be tweaked, but I do feel that if you hear the conversations and you hear the interactions, they are much different than when I was a young deputy and we were supervising 250 people, and it was like, hi, sign this, bye, come back, don't get in trouble. I mean, you had to run, and now you can actually have a 20, 30-minute conversation and interaction and talk about things and work on some of these things that we weren't able to do in the past when our caseloads were outrageous. So there's a big difference.
Okay, good. And will you be working with the hybrid program?
Well, we're going to discuss that when we get a chance to meet. With the holidays and schedules and stuff, it was, we tried to meet yesterday. We had a scheduled meeting yesterday, but we are trying to get involved in that so we can be more visible. We don't want to be threatening. Like there's a million good cops for every one bad cop. It's the same thing with us. We have a purpose, and so we don't want that one bad apple to be a reflection of what we're trying to do as a whole. So, and then but we'll meet and we'll talk, and I think we're on the same page, so, we're both pretty easygoing, it looks like, so, and experienced, so that always helps.
Great, thank you.
You're
You know,
welcome.
The Commissioner Nicolette asked you what we can do for you. I think,
You can buy me breakfast.
but I need to, seriously, and you need to be more aggressive. Because I've been working with your clients.
Yes,
You know?
yes. How's that
You
going?
need to be. Always, like you said, and some make it, some's not.
Yeah.
And a lot of things is tied up with the real requirements. Even I want to hire them, there's a limit to it.
Sure.
I want them to be there on my time, but there's requirements from your end.
Sure.
And they need to be there someplace to, do your job and the testing, all that. But you need to reach out and business owner, and we can create that. I think the city can. That benefits the city too, and working with the hybrid too, and, some of those guys are great.
Yeah, and one of the things that people have a misconception of, and many people that do find employment, is that most of these guys are like military people. They like structure. They're used to structure. Get up, do this, do that, do this throughout their day. And some of these guys
I
have
noticed
been,
that they ask for permissions.
they've been programmed to live their life for maybe multiple years at a time while they're in custody. So this is normal to them. And when they lose that structure, that's when they get in trouble. So if they find a place, and I think one of the things that you were talking about with job placement, we do have an INVEST program that a couple of POs work with, and they help find jobs. We have a couple guys, I think I explained last month, we had a young guy, 30-ish, he was working full-time at McDonald's in Rosemont. He was going to his classes. We paid for his union dues. He got recognized by the County of LA with all these scrolls and things of that nature because he really put his mind to it. And I tell a lot of the young guys, especially when I worked in juvenile years ago with Judge Estes and stuff, a lot of these guys we can drop off in the middle of the quad at Antelope Valley College and you would never know they were criminals or have a history of criminal behavior. You would never know. It's no different with opportunities. And the thing is, we'll screen them. So Mr. Herr asked for somebody, we're going to make sure they're the best in the cream of our crop to say, we know this guy or this woman is ready to go into workforce because they're determined. And remember, even in restaurants, these guys are working, KP duties in large prison settings or large county jail settings. So they're familiar with it all in the things. But opportunity, but you have to stay on them. If you're going to be the employer, they're used to that structure. Hey, let's go. And it's the same thing with us. The more we see them, the more they're boxed in that structure and the more confidence they get once they trust you. The less we see them is when they venture off and end up going back to where they once were. And that seems to be something that we've learned over the years. So it's not bad. Thanks for your time. Have a good day. Merry Christmas to all you.
Thank you. Highway Patrol.
Good morning. So our fatal traffic collisions right now are currently at 42 with 44 deaths as a result. This last month in November, we had a total of 157 collisions. 5 of them were fatal injury, 8 of those were major injury, and 20 were DUI related. In all, it's just slightly higher than the month of October. DUI arrests were also up a little bit. We had 61 arrests for DUI, 3 arrests for stolen vehicles, 7 recoveries, recovered stolen vehicles, 4 drug-related arrests, and 2 violent felony arrests. We also had 37 homeless contacts, and we conducted an SEU with or a special enforcement detail with the Sheriff's Department, which was very successful, and we continue to do those with both Palmdale and Lancaster, and it's been working out really well. Currently, our Chips for Kids toy drive is in full swing. We're up to 6,500 toys so far at last count, and we're hoping to exceed the 10,000 mark by the end of the season. We have several more collection events that are coming up throughout the entire Antelope Valley. But I just want to take a moment to thank everybody. Obviously, this will be my last meeting, but it's been great being here, part of this community. The city of Lancaster has been great to work with. Had a really strong relationship with people here that have been there for us and helped us when we needed it, and then hopefully vice versa, we were able to help out whenever we were called upon. My counterpart here, John, has been great to work with, and then his predecessors before that as well. Has always been a really good, tight relationship, which isn't always the case. And then our district attorney here has always been very supportive and does a real good job with filing our cases and helping us make sure we give them what they need to be able to prosecute and do the best job possible. But I just wanted to express my thanks and appreciation and wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for all you've done for this community.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Yeah, and my replacement's going to be Captain Joe Zagorski. He's actually been able to meet with him. Very good guy. I don't see any issues that you're going to have with him. I think he's going to be able to pick up right where we left off, and he'll do a great job here.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Sherwood.
Good morning. Okay, so for November was relatively slow filing month. For us, we filed a total of 74 felony cases. Anything below 100 is pretty low. So the breakdown, we filed 1 arson case, 10 auto burglary cases. It's about average for the year. 7 residential or commercial burglaries. 5 cases involving criminal threats. 5 cases involving drug sales. Domestic violence were 7. We did not file any evading cases. 15 felony assaults. No felony DUIs. 1 identity theft. 9 illegal firearm cases, which is low. We only filed 1 attempted murder case. Only 2 robberies, which is extremely low. We filed as many as 20 in a month. We only had 2 filings for the month of November. 6 cases involving sex crimes, 5 vandalism cases. So that's it for November. The only other thing I wanted to add was our alternative sentencing courts are doing their graduations. Today was mental health court. Tomorrow is drug court. I think there's going to be about 20 people, from what I'm told, graduating, and these are all going to be people, various backgrounds and circumstances, most of whom were facing substantial prison time. And chose to avail themselves of this program, probably spent anywhere from 6 months or more in custody, and went through probably 2 years or more of treatment to get to where they are. Most of them will get their cases, if not dismissed, reduced to significantly lesser charges. So if anybody's available, wants to come by and see it, I'm not able to go to all of them. I'll be there tomorrow. They're very inspirational and give you another side of the criminal justice system. So.
And that's at 10 o'clock tomorrow?
That's at 10 o'clock tomorrow. If you're going to be there and you let me know, I'll try to meet with you early and take you over. I think they'll be busy setting stuff up, but I'll try to get you in to introduce you to the judge, and the DA and the defense attorney is also an important part of that program as well. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have any data on how this is working out? Can we say this is the group that went to the program, this is the group that didn't, they're doing better than this one in the long run?
I think there is data. I don't have it. I can. I don't know if I know the defense attorney was keeping some of it. I'm keeping track of the other alternative program, which is not very successful in my opinion. That we're putting Antelope Valley is one of the pilot programs for this other alternative. It's mental health diversion. This all comes under the mental health diversion 1001.36 statute, which has been revised again to try to make it easier for people to get into mental health diversion. That's a long conversation that would take all the way through lunch to explain to everybody, but that program is less intensive, and as a result, in my opinion, is less effective. This program tends to be more intensive, involves a custody component, and is more successful. So I think if you come tomorrow, you'll see that. Okay?
Just had a quick question on, you said the felony cases were down. What do you think is contributing to that? Are we behind in cases, filing cases, or?
It could be. It's really hard to, I never tried to extrapolate too much from 1 month. We had a couple of months ago that was, extremely high. They do seems to even out over the course of the year. I think the best way to look at these statistics is to look at what's going on with the sheriff's department. If their arrests, if the crime is going up, but our filings are going down, it could be that there's a delay. It could be that more people are getting away with the crime. It could be a resources issue. I think it'll be interesting to see when the public safety group gets going to see if our numbers increase, if we're able to solve more crimes. What we're doing is we're taking the reports from the sheriff's department. If there's sufficient evidence, then we file them. So crime could be increasing, but our filings could still go down, just because it could be that it's taking longer to investigate. It could be that more people are getting away with it in this particular month. So it's really hard to take too much from one month.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. City Attorney.
Good morning. Nice to see everybody. I'll be very brief because I believe that Rod and some of his team are going to be doing another presentation on a project that we worked on collectively. I will just say in advance of that presentation that putting a team together that was comprised of Sheriff's Department, code enforcement, public safety officers, the community development manager, business licensing, and then the city prosecutor's office together to come up with a comprehensive and, holistic, if you will, approach to a problem property and a problem business is, I think, part of the model moving forward, that we have all the pieces together, that we look at the thing as a whole, and we figure out as a group, how are we going to tackle this issue? I think that that's going to be, this was very successful, and I think it's going to be really successful moving forward. And that's all I have for today, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody.
Great, thank you. Director Ellen.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to have my special projects coordinator, Stephanie, do the presentation. But so you know, one of the approaches, as I mentioned earlier, is to identify, root causes of some of the concerns. And we've located, Stephanie's great work has located some businesses that aren't only tremendous draws on the sheriff's department and our resources out there, but also some of them are related to serious crime, including shootings, as one of these locations that we shut down this weekend was associated with. So we wanted to just give you a short presentation on how this went. Go ahead, Steph.
Thank you, Rod. Good morning, Commissioners, everybody else in attendance. Good morning. My name is Stephanie. I'm the projects coordinator for the Public Safety Department. Sort of to bounce off what Jocelyn and Director Armelon had to say was recently, about 2 weeks ago, we discovered several underground clandestine bars where we put together a task force that combined of ABC, Department of Public Health, Los Angeles County Fire Department, Department of Labor, EDD, and our Sheriff's Department, along with our public safety team and code enforcement. So briefly here, this is our presentation of what was captured at these clandestine bars. We only focused on 2 main bars. These bars are completely operating illegally, and multiple violations were discovered. So I'd like to first start with the video. It was presented to council last night. I'm not sure if you guys were able to take a look at it, but I did post it here so that we could take a quick look. Click on the link. The rat. There we go.
We here at the Lancaster Public Safety Department have become aware of numerous unpermitted, unlicensed, illegal, clandestine clubs that are operating within our city boundaries. These establishments are drains on the sheriff's department, and they create issues within our community, sometimes violence. So these activities are not going to be stood for by our city or by our sheriff's department. So we are going to take efforts to ensure that locations like this are operating within the laws of the city and the state. Thank you.
So that was a quick little video that our comms team actually put together. I think it turned out great. It captured a few great moments from our operation. So this is sort of what we either received tips on or is discovered from our public safety team. So this was actually the first day of our operation, which was December 1st. Our target was Hypnotic Island Events, which is close to here. These are the type of, the clandestine bars that they're presenting. The one that we were trying to target, as you could see, Sexual Saturday, was supposed to be held on December 3rd, but we decided, due to staffing and safety issues, we decided to target it earlier than expected. When we arrived, we did discover hookah, we did discover also alcohol, marijuana, and it showed that it was presented as a nightclub. We did discover that the owner was there. We spoke to her. We let her know that these things are not going to be tolerated in our city. Also recently at this location, back on September 27th, I believe, there was a shooting at a baby shower at this specific location. So we were very happy to try to target it and shut it down before that event was held. The second location that we targeted, this was on December 3rd, Unique's Palace, which was shown in the video that was presented to you guys. This is the type of events that they're promoting. We did arrive for the December 3rd, which was shown in the video, and then they also recently held an event, the Puff and Paint, where they charge an admission fee. When you arrive, they provide marijuana. There's stripping, drugs, alcohol. I mean, you can imagine. These are some of the items that we discovered. So as you saw in the video, there's a bong. They do charge an admission fee, but they called it donations, which you could see on the bottom left corner. It's a Cash App symbol, so you scan your phone, you pay at the door, and you're invited in. There was also poles for, I assume, pole dancing. They did submit a business license to the city to present a fitness studio where they would do pole dancing classes, but they were also holding events on the weekends. So you submit an application for one thing, it turns to be something completely different. This was also the night of the operation. So in the back of that clandestine bar, there is a VIP room where there was a pool table, a pole dancing area, and then also that was the parking lot. You can't really see it, but there was about 150 to 200 people in attendance that night when we arrived. These are their VIP tables. They were promoting that it was, I believe, $150 per booth. So with that booth, you would get a free alcohol bottle, and as you could see, in the first photo, there's a red cup, which is where they would place their blunts or use them as ashtrays. And along with the second photo, the tray is the white tray there in the middle. This was also discovered in the first tray, that is marijuana, and in the second photo, they show that they have gambling chips, so we could automatically assume that there is illegal gambling occurring in these clandestine bars. And that is my presentation. Is there any questions?
Was the owner arrested?
No, she was cited. She was cited mainly for our city codes that we have, so operating a business illegally, and then submitting a wrongful business license as well.
If I can just chime in here for a moment. The operator did have a business license for a private dance studio. There were conditions of approval established pursuant to the planning director's review for that dance studio, and one of them was that they could only operate between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. This operation began about 10:40 p.m. on Saturday evening, so they were, even if they were a dance studio, they were operating outside of the conditions of the approval of that dance studio. Clearly a nightclub. They were operating a full-blown nightclub without a conditional use permit, which is required under the municipal code, so that was another violation. They were serving or selling alcohol without an ABC license. That's another violation. There were significant building code type violations, particularly fire code related, with occupancy of 150 to 200 people there in a unit that would have an occupancy classification limit of about 50 people, serious health, safety hazard in the event of a fire or other emergency, and there were significant issues with the emergency egress doors and clearance to them and access out of them. So if there had been a fire or a shooting or something else, people could have been seriously hurt in their attempt to get out of the unit. So it wasn't just, that it's a magnet for crime and a magnet for unlawful activity, but it's also, a serious life safety issue for people who are attending. So we did, actually yesterday, last week, we prepared the order to vacate, and that was posted, I believe, earlier this week on the premises because of the code violations that are life safety issues. That unit can no longer be occupied until those are mitigated. Additionally, yesterday, we drafted the revocation letter for the business license and the denial of the pending application for the event banquet hall. So that person can no longer operate. They don't have a license any longer and will not be allowed to apply for a new city business license of any kind for 12 months. And by the way, last thing, we did this pursuant to an inspection warrant that was issued by the court at the Antelope Valley Courthouse here. The inspection warrant rather than a search warrant because it was primarily city code violation oriented. It wasn't really a law enforcement per se issue. It was a code enforcement and public safety and code violation matter. So we got the inspection warrant, and that's how they were able to effectuate the inspections at the locations.
The owner of the property, are they cited to make sure that these conditions have to be remedied before anybody? And would the city have the right to go in and inspect to make sure those infractions or code violations are not are corrected?
The owner of the shopping center has not been cited personally, but he has been given a copy of the order to vacate. He was copied on the license revocation letter that was issued yesterday. I know that Andrew Noga is going to be, or one of the code officers will be reaching out to him today to see whether he wants to secure the premises or whether we'll be doing that to enforce the order to vacate. Because it is an imminent hazard, and we can't, allegedly this particular location is going to be having their Saturday event somewhere down below, but I don't believe it. I believe that they're going to try to open it up here, so we're going to make sure that people cannot get into that unit and jeopardize their safety.
What happens if it is repeated, but maybe in a different unit, the same owner, different unit, or even at the same unit?
Yes, providing the property owner with copies of the notifications. The follow-up letter to him will be what we call the red light and the drug house abatement letter, which is to notify him that there are civil actions that we can take against a property owner who allows his or her property to be used for purposes of selling and serving drugs, for purposes of prostitution, or other kind of disorderly house, and we can shut that premises down, and he can't use it or rent it or make any money off of it for a year. We get attorney's fees. We get a civil penalty of up to $25,000 that we would split with the DA's office. It's very serious, and we take it very seriously, and it's a very strong remedy, so property owners generally pay attention when they get such a letter.
And not to mention, they don't only receive city code violations, they also receive violations from Department of Public Health, ABC, other agencies like that that'll target them for their own violations, and those fees are pretty extensive.
Well, they didn't have an ABC license, though, did they?
No, they did not.
Did they have a seller's permit?
No, they did not. They
So
just had
was-
the business license with the city, but they didn't go through the process of actually having a seller's permit.
Was the tax and fee administration involved?
I don't, tax and fee administration was not involved, but we did have the Employment Development Department and the Department of Labor, and they were extremely helpful.
May want to consider CDTFA. I know back when their role was under BOE and I was there, they have some significant tools for folks like that. I mean, it's just to help with that, because I doubt they're collecting and remitting sales
Absolutely.
tax on those drinks. So, you know.
We'll look into that, sir. I'll tell you one thing. One of the things the proprietor shared that night is that she had a 501c3. And the wonderful folks from Department of Labor, I wish we could have got a photo of her face when they said, oh, okay, well, we're going to have our auditors audit your 501c3. That was shocking for her. So that entity is very powerful, but we're going to consider the ones that you mentioned. And I also want to share kudos to my incredible team, including, Jocelyn, Stephanie for finding these locations and coordinating. Captain Lecrevain's land cap team, incredible, because they were tasked with going in and getting control of this location so we could serve that warrant. And we're talking about 150 individuals who were very uncooperative, so much to the fact that they had to call for additional resources, and they did an incredible job getting it under control so we could go in and address the issue. So,
Thank you, guys.
Do you suspect these are individual criminal entities as opposed to something organized like the Taps?
No, I believe that these are just private parties that just want to start a business and kind of spread out, based off of that. They see an opportunity and they take it. So I don't believe it's any type of organized crime, but you never know.
yeah, it really is hard to say. We are considering that fact too, though, and we are seeing more locations like this. We have others that we're going to address. Like I said, the special, our troubled location team is what we're calling it. We're identifying locations that are massive drains on the Sheriff's Department. We're going to address one now, and I will not mention that location, that has been responsible for some 900 calls for service to that location, since, I think over the past 2.5 years or so, and that's ridiculous. So working with John, we're gonna deal with locations like that. And in our meeting with the owner of that complex, we will express that he should understand he has a responsibility to pay attention to what's going on in his complex. So,
Do you guys ever, being in property management, we manage several commercial centers. Do you ever make a point to try to notify the property manager because they may or may not know what's going on?
If we know who the property management is, we would ordinarily copy them on any communication that we sent to the owner. I will note that the owner of the location that we're talking about here is not local, is down in the San Fernando Valley, as is pretty common. And we've seen that time and time again, both with the, massage hooker stuff, with the taps, with, they're always absentee owners. So property management, when we know who it is, we would definitely want to copy them on it. And, Rod just briefly mentioned, when we meet with the property owner, having an office conference after something like this with the responsible person so that they get the message reiterated and in person that we are serious and we mean business, and now you're on notice, and we will file that civil action if one more thing happens at your location.
Thank you.
and we want to make sure that in that reach out as well, we're letting them know that, hey, we're a resource to you. And if you think you have a concerning, client inside your property, reach out to us, see how we can help. And also consider offering education classes for property owners to help them, better understand what they're dealing with, ensure they know what the rules are, and then just make sure, that we've got that back and forth communication. So, but these are troubled locations for our city, so.
Thank you.
Thank you and happy holidays.
Thank you. Great work. Okay, our legislative updates. Do we have anyone from Congressman Garcia's office? Okay. I see Pam with Assemblyman Lackey. Oh, Sean, you want to go first?
Sure. There's not much to report. As you guys know, there was a special legislative session on December 5th where the where the legislator met to talk about gas prices. We do know that the new legislative session does start in a couple of weeks, and the middle class tax rebate, or the gas tax rebate, is slowly rolling out over the next few weeks. And we want to let folks know that if you haven't, received that by February 1st, to contact our office so that we can work on your behalf. And also, a new Real ID deadline for travel is May 2025. This was an extension made by the Department of Homeland Security due to COVID issues. Currently, we don't know how this will affect Real ID requirements for firearm and ammunition purchases, or other requirements outside of travel. But again, we'll keep you guys updated, and we're continuing to take legislative ideas for the next legislative session.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Cannon? Is there any update on what's happening to clean up that concealed, say CCW permit holder and applicant leak?
I don't have an update on that for you right now, but I can inquire and get back to you via email today.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Balch with Assemblyman Lackey's office.
All right. The Assemblyman has been very busy in district since his swearing in on December 5th, and he is thrilled to be serving the 34th Assembly District, although that does not include everyone in Lancaster and Palmdale. We have some new areas, but we are assured that Assemblymember Creel will be taking action for those areas as well. The Assemblyman is currently working on his bill package, and he wanted you to know that he is keenly aware that California is leaning toward criminal protection rather than victims protection. And so one of his package parts will be to address victim protection and victim rights. And he doesn't have all the details on that, but he will be proud to present that once it is complete in February. We had the opportunity to go to the state prison, which was very unusual opportunity, but Sean also came with us, so that was amazing. We got to see firsthand some of the programs that are being offered in the prison that were emotional and inspiring to witness, including Healing Through Art, a dog program, and one called Defy Ventures. And Defy Ventures empowers those in the program to become entrepreneurs, and then offers them services once they are released to help them pursue their own business. And they're having a graduation coming up that we will be attending, but the recidivism rate is extremely low. The dog group said there is a 0 at this point for as long as the program has been going, and I think it was 5 years or 7 years. I mean, so it wasn't just started, but they've had 0 since that time. And there wasn't a dry eye there. If you have the opportunity to go and see these programs, I'm telling you, it was very, very inspiring and encouraging to see people that truly want to change and are taking the bull by the horns, if you will, to affect that change through these programs. So that was a wonderful opportunity the Assemblyman and I had earlier. And we are looking forward to serving the 34th District. And if you do not know if you're in the 34th District, please call our office and we'll look it up. I think that's been the hardest thing for this change, is actually realizing that we don't represent everyone that we used to. The redistricting did not take into consideration people that serve or the people that are being served. And it's just kind of split it up along different lines that we are going to make work. But it is definitely, we are committed to work with Assemblymember Carrillo so that there is no issue in coverage. And so until his office is up, we are accepting calls and helping people no matter where they are. But it is definitely going to be a learning experience for all of us. But we're up to the task. So Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman?
Actually, for both of you, it was mentioned earlier that it might be nice to have parole participate in these meetings, and that is a State Department, and ask you both if you can help with that.
Okay. We'll work on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to piggyback on what Pamela said. Senator Wilkes still does represent all of the Antelope Valley. And
Yay!
so we will be working adamantly, and the senator is very adamant about working with both Assembly members Carrillo and Lackey to make sure that there is no lapse in how we serve the Antelope Valley.
Great, appreciate that. And actually, that brings a question for staff. You know, again, the change just kind of went into effect, but we should make sure we're inviting Assemblymember Carrillo's office to participate in this meeting as well. It'd be important to have him here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, public business from the floor, non-agendized items.
This is the time to address the Lancaster Criminal Justice Commission on non-agendized matters. Speaker cards can be found on the back table of the council chambers. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each unless a different time limit is announced. State law prohibits the commission from taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, first up, we have Mr. David Paul.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, good morning. You know, I always have some idea of what I'll talk about before I come, and then that always changes in the middle of the presentation. So I just want to reflect on the things that I struggle with myself. You know, none of this is easy, and you sometimes wonder how we got in this position and why people are the way they are and all these things. And I just want to say that I appreciate everyone here who commits their time and their careers to making these problems better and has to deal with the reality that some problems are really intractable and harder to solve than others. I would like everybody to get along and be good people, but that's not how life is. But this city and this commission, and I was telling my new friend here, Bill Riley, that Palmdale doesn't have a forum like this, and I've never seen one, and it's great to have everybody come together. You know, I also want to thank my friend Jin Her, because he has a coffee for vets on Tuesday morning, and I like talking to people, and the representatives come, and like the supervisors, Chuck Boswick, and some of the Met team, and I sit with them every Tuesday and just talk candidly about the challenges. And you know, it never. I always recognize that they are overwhelmed in a way that is difficult, but they keep pushing on, and that's what I admire. And so, you know, I wanted to talk about a couple other things, but really just thank you all for doing this. We want safe communities, and we want to make our city a better place. And the things, the challenges we face, the new homeless thing the mayor talked about last night from LA, pushing the homeless up here and what to do about it, and these are hard, and I appreciate everyone who contributes their time and effort to do this, because we need help and we need hope, and this commission actually provides that for me. It's an inspiration. Thank you all for what you do.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, Mr. William Kelly.
Good morning. A lot of important things have been discussed this morning. I'm just here as a citizen to kind of give you my take on the traffic situation. I commute to LA once a week, also drive all around the Antelope Valley. People I've talked to have indicated that traffic enforcement has been I won't say neglected, but de-emphasized for some necessary reasons at times, budget, whatever the case, resources. I'm seeing an uptick in this. I believe it's an epidemic of bad driving habits, distracted driving, speeding, aggressiveness, something as simple as not using a turn signal. So I don't know what that person's going to do, and all of a sudden they do something. People do not stop at stop signs. And stop means like no motion. Okay, I try to do that. It's used to be where, okay, yeah, you kind of stop close to it and you creep along, you don't quite stop, okay. But people are now blowing through stop signs. All they do is slow down enough to make the turn. They go through the hold short line, if you will, and they look and they're still going, 15, 20 miles an hour, and they blow through it. Last month, my wife and I were tail-ended at a stoplight at J8 and 30th West at about 30 miles an hour while we were stopped number 5 in line. Okay, this guy just didn't stop. My wife has a metal plate in her neck and 5 screws. Fortunately, I think she's okay, but I took time out today to come here because it's really important to me. She's having chemotherapy today, so I got to go pick her up when I'm done. All right. Not far from me, I stopped at a stop sign with my wife. I saw this guy coming about 300 feet away, way too fast. I knew he wasn't going to stop. He went right in front of us at about 60, 70 miles an hour. Okay. You cannot just blow through a stop sign. The other day I was at the auto mall. On my way there, I stopped. This guy behind me didn't think I was going to stop, and that's the other thing. People are now accustomed to not stopping, so they assume you're not going to stop, so you don't know if they're going to stop behind you. The guy started giving me all kinds of hand motions and so forth, getting all upset because I stopped at a stop sign. I just want to see more traffic enforcement. Cars passed me on the 14 coming home Friday night from LA, a couple 100-mile-an-hour cars, easy. If you get hit like that, you're done. And so my time's pretty much up. Please start funding the enforcement side again, okay? And I've been told, actually I called the city hall yesterday, I was told by a lady, I can't remember her name, she said, that's up to the sheriff's department. We can't control that, they enforce that. Well, as a contract to the city, I was also told by the sheriff's department that, hey, they can actually decide to a degree where the resources go. So I'm just asking you to kind of take a look at that in the future, please. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments, sir. The commissioner comments. Commissioner Brown? Commissioner Harris?
Nothing.
Commissioner McCracken?
No comment.
Commissioner Hurt?
No comment besides Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Vice Chairman Little?
None, just happy holidays, everyone. See them next year. Yeah.
Okay. That's it for me. Echo those sentiments. We will adjourn to our next regular meeting Wednesday, January 11th, 2023 at